Sometimes we just want what we want and we believe that we will not be okay unless and until we get it. This can show up in so many areas of our lives. And for me in particular, it shows up in I want a thinner body. I want a body that has zero health problems. I want my son to make the decisions and choices I want him to make. And I want my daughter to make the decisions that I want her to make that will ultimately make my life easier. And I also have wanted desperately to be free from the struggle with overeating. At the end of the day, we want our efforts to produce the outcome that we have been working so hard to create. And this is a universal struggle, universal experience. We all have outcomes that we are attached to. You might want your children to be okay. You might want your relationship to work out a certain way. You want your body to cooperate in getting the things that you want from your body. You may want that diagnosis to be benign. You might want the job, the money, the zip code, the approval. You want somebody to apologize. You want certainty. And I just want to say that wanting those things, having those desires, is not wrong in and of itself. We all have desires. The suffering begins when our nervous system decides, I cannot be okay unless things turn out the way that I want. So, what happens when your inner controller has done everything she knows how to do and life still refuses to cooperate?
Hey, and welcome to Masks Off Inner Freedom for People Pleasers and Perfectionists. This is a podcast for those who are tired of holding it all together. I'm Kim Gross, your host, and if you've ever felt like you're doing all the right things, but still feel anxious, disconnected, or quietly burned out, you're in the right place. Here we talk about the patterns you don't even realize you're living inside of: self-abandonment, over-functioning, chasing approval, and mistaking productivity for your worth, and more. This isn't about fixing yourself. It's about remembering who you were before you learned to perform, perfect, and please to belong. Each week, we'll slow things down. We'll unpack the nervous system, the inner critic, and the subtle ways that you learned to disconnect from your true self so you can stop living from pressure and start living from presence. This is your space to take the masks off. So let's begin.
I'm going to start by talking about how the inner controller tries to bargain. She will say things like, give me enough control and I will give you safety. She promises that if we find the perfect diet, then we will lose the weight and we will feel good about our bodies. If we monitor every symptom, every marker, if we get blood work done and we're constantly checking, or if we wear a wearable device that tells us all the different markers. So I have an Aura ring, And it tells me my sleep score. It tells me my readiness score. It tells me if my heart is healthy. And if I pay attention to my aura ring enough and I get those results, then I can feel safe. Then I can feel that my health is okay. Or our inner controller promises that if we give our children the right advice, enough advice, if we are really involved in their lives, we can have an influence on their decisions and we can help them to avoid painful mistakes. She promises that if we think through every possible scenario, every which way, upside and down, that we will not be blindsided by life. If we work harder, if we research more, if we become more disciplined, we can force life into the shape that we need. We can mold life the way we want to. This creates the illusion that emotional safety is waiting on the other side of the quote unquote right outcome. But the inner controller's promise is actually impossible to fulfill because life, our bodies, our relationships, other people are not controllable. We cannot control people, places, and things. I say this all the time. The trap is, though, that sometimes our inner controller does get outcomes that we want. Sometimes she is successful in accomplishing things. And so we become seduced into thinking that we're able to control everything and every outcome. So we have to be mindful of that trap. The inner controller is not obsessed with control because she's being arrogant or because she is feeling super powerful or manipulative. The inner controller is doing this because she is actually obsessed with the control because she's terrified. And that is a really important point to understand that it's not about being powerful. It's not about being in control and arrogant and puffed up or strong. It has nothing to do with that. It's because she is so scared. So, what happens when control stops working? When our efforts to control outcomes isn't producing the result that we desire? Our inner controller doubles down. She is relentless. So, let me explain what happens when the outcome begins to move further and further away from what we want. So, for example, I said in the beginning that I have a desire to lose weight, to be thinner. And the actual outcome seems to be going the opposite direction. Instead of my weight coming down, my weight seems to be going up. So that result, that outcome is further and further away from what I desire. And so my inner controller rarely says, and she does not say this to me, oh my goodness, I've done all that I can. Now let me just rest. Instead, she becomes more intense. And so she does all types of things. She will obsessively research. She will replay conversations. She can give repeated advice. My inner controller gives my kids repeated advice. And my inner controller is always checking ChatGPT for different information on my health issues. In addition, she tries to restrict food, and then I go into overeating. She criticizes my body. She's searching for perfect solutions to all the problems. She is trying to futurize and plan what the future will look like for myself and for my kids. And that goes into catastrophizing. Sometimes my inner controller will blame herself for not being disciplined enough. And then the shame sets in, and it's this vicious cycle. And you can, so going back again to my example of my weight not being where I want it to be, I feel like I'm unable to actually stop eating in the way that I should. I'm definitely much better than I used to be even a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. For sure, my eating habits have improved and gotten better. But I know that in order to really lose the weight that I would need to do massive calorie restriction. At least that's my belief. That's what my inner controller is telling me. She's saying, Kim, if you want your weight to go down and you want to be thinner, you need to restrict your calories. No more chocolate chips on your yogurt. No more this, no more ice cream, no more. And so she's just in my ear telling me constantly the things that I need to do. And in addition to that, my inner controller is working overtime with my kids and worrying about their futures, worrying about their decisions and their choices. They're both at points in their lives where they're in this in between phase and having to make big decisions for their futures. And can I just tell you how much all of that is kicking up my inner controller? It's also important to point out that sometimes when we are in this control mode, that it looks like we're being strategic. It looks like our strategies might be working and we are being productive. And like I said, it might look like I'm being uber responsible. I'm doing the things I need to do by going to the gym and I'm eating certain foods. I'm doing what the doctor tells me to do. It can look like I'm being super caring about my kids and I'm helping to problem solve. So the question is not only what are the things that I'm doing, it's also, and this is the important distinction that I bring up time and time again, is what is the energy behind what I'm doing? What energy is driving my behaviors? Is it coming from this grounded, centered, wise, adult place? Or is it coming from this terrified need to control? Is it coming from a place of lack and scarcity and anxiety and worry? That's the key question that you have to ask yourself when you're contemplating all of these decisions that you're making. And when you're looking at your behaviors, this is what you can ask yourself. What is underneath the need to control? This is the heart of what this episode is about. When your inner controller cannot change the outcome, the feelings underneath that begin to surface are powerlessness, fear, sadness, shame, anxiety, worry, helplessness, powerlessness, disappointment, vulnerability. Did I say powerlessness? I repeat it because it's so important to understand that. Going back again to the example of my weight, what is the urgency beneath my desire to lose weight? It's a combination of fear of being judged, shame about how I look, grief that my body is changing. It's not the same as it used to be. I literally cannot believe how much my body has changed in the last couple of years. Same goes for my health. I've always been able to do X, Y, and Z and manage my health issues, manage having a chronic illness, manage having this autoimmune disease. And while I still am managing it, it seems like it's getting harder and harder to stay on top of things and to have the good results. My blood work hasn't been as good lately. I've been dealing with things involving my kidneys and my cardiovascular health. And I've always, up until this point, have been able to, quote, control it. And now I can't seem to. All the things that I'm doing are not working. My weight is going up. I can't control my health outcomes. And I feel like the minute I deal with one health issue, something else pops up. It's put out this fire, another fire starts. Put that fire out, another fire starts. So, all the things that I have been doing, all the things that my inner controller is trying desperately to control, is not working. And so, underneath that is so much fear and so much powerlessness. So, why does the inner controller become so exhausted? Why is she exhausted? Trying to control the uncontrollable is exhausting because this job never ends. There's always going to be, like I said, another fire to put out, another symptom that's going to show up, another food choice that I have to analyze, another conversation that I have to replay, or another issue in my kids' lives that's going to come up and create more fear and anxiety. So eventually we become depleted in our minds, our bodies, and our spirits. And this is exactly where I have been the last couple of days. It's exactly what I am experiencing, just complete spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion. My inner controller is tired. She's frustrated because she has worked so hard and she still cannot guarantee the outcomes that she wants. And then what happens? It is a hamster wheel because the exhaustion then leads to emotional eating, numbing, and then that leads to more weight gain. And then the cycle just keeps going around and around. It can lead to irritability, shutting down, not sharing what I feel, not going inward. It can lead to resentment, compulsive problem solving, feeling disconnected, trying to handle it all on my own and not reaching out for support. So the exhaustion is not proof that you need to just try harder, double down. It may actually be evidence that you have been trying too hard to do the impossible. At the end of the day, it is your younger part who believes that she cannot handle the feelings that are underneath. And your younger part might believe that I can't handle being powerless. I can't survive the uncertainty. If someone I love suffers, it will kill me. If my body's not acceptable, then I'm not acceptable. If I cannot fix this, then I have failed. If I cannot rescue or save or predict with certainty what my kids will go through or how to prevent them from suffering, then I have failed. If I let go, something terrible will happen. If I let go, something terrible will happen. No one will take care of me if things go wrong. I will be all alone. And I have to prevent pain before it actually happens. So the inner controller is trying to protect this younger part from having to experience and feel those feelings. That's a very important point to highlight. And that's why she took on the role of fixer, rescuer, protector, performer, perfectionist, pleaser, problem solver. Your inner controller is not the enemy. She is an exhausted protector who believes that she cannot rest because no one else is capable of keeping her safe. That's what she believes. So, what is the real antidote to this problem? The antidote is to become the adult who can say, I am here for you. I've got you. And the antidote is not to immediately force yourself to let go, because that will backfire for sure. It can just be another way of overriding by saying, I should be more trusting. I should surrender. I should be grateful. I should not feel this upset. We don't want to bypass and we don't want to override, because that will not work. Instead, the first step is developing this wise, centered, mature adult self who can stay present with the younger part of you that is feeling all of these feelings. And your adult can say things like, oh my gosh, of course you are scared right now in this moment. It makes so much sense that you would want this outcome. Or you're allowed to feel disappointed. It's normal. You don't have to solve this feeling right now. I'm here with you and I'm not leaving you. We can survive not knowing. We can survive not knowing. We can handle this moment, even if we cannot control the future. These are so important. It might seem like simple things to say, but they will have profound impact on helping your younger part feel safer. Inner safety is not believing that everything is going to turn out the way you want. Inner safety is trusting that you will not abandon yourself when it does not. That's the key. That's the magic sauce. I also want to point out that surrender is not the same thing as giving up. Surrender does not mean that you don't care about your weight anymore, that you don't care about your health, you don't care about your kids, your relationship, your job. It just means, and you don't stop taking care of your health. You don't stop setting goals. You don't stop offering support. What surrender means is that you acknowledge what is outside of your control, or you do what you can do and then you let go. You plant seeds in the garden and then you let go of what it produces. You stop being at war with your body. You stop being at war with your health. You allow your adult children, if you have them, to live their own lives. You stop abandoning the present moment to manage some imagined horrible future. Surrender is not saying, I do not care what happens. Surrender is saying, I care deeply and I recognize that I cannot control everything that happens. So, what do we do when trust and gratitude do not work immediately? Trust, surrender, letting go, gratitude are very helpful tools. They are tools in my toolbox that I use daily, but they don't always create immediate relief. In fact, right now, these last couple of days, because there's been an overflow of shit coming at me, if you will. Like life is just lifing and there's a lot of it right now. And I have used my tools and they have not necessarily given me immediate relief. And I have just said to myself at times, just trust, surrender, be grateful. And I still felt scared. I still had sadness. I still have shame and powerlessness. And that doesn't mean that I was doing something wrong or that it didn't work. These practices, these tools are not these buttons that we press in order to eliminate the discomfort. And that's the tricky part because we think, oh, if I just practice gratitude, if I just trust, if I just let go, then I'll get the outcome I want, or then I don't have to feel the pain. So they actually just are ways that we orient ourselves while the discomfort is still there. So we're holding both at the same time. We can trust, we can practice gratitude, we can surrender, and at the same time, hold space in that container for whatever feelings are present. So I might say, I can be grateful and I can be grieving at the same time. I can say, I can trust myself or trust the universe and still feel afraid. Healing is not some type of perfect state of surrendering where you're in this bliss 24/7, 365. It is a repeated practice of returning home over and over. What is a practical framework that you can use when you cannot control the outcome that you desire? The first thing you can do is name what you want. What do you desire? And be honest. I want my body to be thinner. I want a body that is perfectly healthy with no issues. And I want my kids to make the choices that I want them to make. I want certainty. And do not shame yourself when you're naming what you desire and want. That's an important caveat. Step two, name what you're trying to control. What are you trying to monitor? What are you forcing? What are you rehearsing mentally? What are you trying to persuade? What outcome are you trying to force or demand? And what are you doing repeatedly that is leaving you so depleted? Then the next step is to find the feeling underneath. And this is the same as my third step of the power pathway, which is the willingness to feel in order to heal. So you go inward and go underneath. What would I have to feel in this moment if I stopped trying to control this right now? Such an awesome question. What would I have to feel if I stopped trying to control this right now? Is it fear? Is it shame? Sadness? Helplessness? Powerlessness? Uncertainty? What's underneath? And then step four, respond from your grounded, wise, mature adult self. You could place one hand on your heart and say, I know that this isn't what you want. I know your body is not where you want it to be. I know that there are too many fires you have to put out with your health right now. And your kids are making some crazy choices. And you can just really be there with that part of yourself that is feeling so tender and vulnerable. And then finally, step five is separate action from an outcome. Ask yourself two questions. What is mine to do? What can I actually do and take action on? And what is not mine to control? Okay, so I can do the very best I can do every single day to eat healthy foods, to exercise, move my body, drink water, get good sleep. Those are things I can control. At the end of the day, I really can't control what happens with my body. I cannot force my body to be perfectly healthy. There are many other things that are at play that are beyond my control. So again, some other things that I can control is I can go to my doctor appointments, I can ask questions, I can communicate with my kids, I can be honest with them, I can share from my heart, I can set boundaries, I can rest, I can ask for help. Those are things that I can do. But things that are not within my control are every outcome of my health. I cannot control what other people actually do and decide. They're not my choices to make. And I cannot control whether people agree with me or disagree with me. And I definitely cannot control the future and make things be certain. So I just want to share personally that my inner controller is really tired these last few days. And I'm not sharing this because I have perfectly surrendered. I'm sharing it because I can feel how exhausted I am from trying to control what I cannot control. I feel the exhaustion. And I know that I just want peace. I want inner peace. I want freedom. That's what I want to have. And my inner controller is feeling frustrated. She's defeated. She's powerless. She's angry. She's ashamed. She's tired of trying. She just wants to give up. So, what I can just say to her, to my inner controller, is you have worked so hard to protect me. You've worked so hard. And you thought that if you could fix my life, my body, my health, and guide everyone toward the right choices, the choices that I think are the right choices, that I would never have to be afraid. I know this is why you've done this, but you don't have to carry this alone anymore. And ultimately, the other choices that we have is to just trust, surrender, and have gratitude. And even though it may not work immediately, what other choice do you really have? So you may not be able to control everything in your life, your body, your health, choices, the future, but you can become the person who stays with yourself through uncertainty. And maybe freedom is not getting everything you want. Maybe freedom is discovering that when life does not give us the outcome we had hoped for, we can grieve, feel, trust, and remain deeply connected to ourselves.
As we wrap up today's episode, I just want to say thank you for being here and for taking this time for yourself. If this episode resonated with you, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe to the podcast or leave a review. Even a quick star rating helps more people find this space and reminds the algorithms that these conversations matter. And I'd love to hear from you. If you have a question, a takeaway, or something that came up while you were listening, leave a comment or send it in. Let's keep the conversation going. This podcast isn't meant to be a one-way street. It's meant to feel like a community. If you want to learn more about me, my work, or the ways we can go deeper together, you can visit my website. All the details are there. Until next time, take a breath, take the mask off, and be gentle with yourself. I'll see you soon.